Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turtles Love Pizza. This is the podcast where we go over everything related to the Ninja Turtle movies. We are currently going over the last Ronin comic book arc, which finally, guys, we're on the last issue. This is your hosts, Steven and.
Andrew.
What's up, Andrew?
What's up, Steven? You excited? Today is actually the day it dropped. That's how excited we were. We got digital copies of it and read it today so we could do this podcast. We had
Yes,
scheduled it for tomorrow, but we were like, no, we have to do it today.
before we get into it, I think you said you had something, one of your pre-orders come in recently, or
Pre-orders
yeah,
for Ninja Turtles?
yeah.
Oh no, I didn't have a pre-order, but I did order the farm pack, Casey and April off at Walmart.com, and that came in.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, because I've been going to my Walmart every week and never showed up. Now they have plenty of Hamato Yoshi and Oroku Saki ones, but I already have
Uh-huh.
that. But April and Casey hasn't shown up, and NECA's it's April, so it's the month of April, so they always celebrate Aprilo'neil for the month of April. But my Walmart just never got it, and then thankfully one of the groups that I'm part of on Facebook,
Uh-huh.
they're posting, hey, it's available off walmart.com, order it. I was able to get it, and here I am now in possession of one.
Awesome. So, out of the whole entire original TMNT movie run, do you have everything from that particular line?
Yes, I have every single one.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. The only thing that I would like to have is the San Diego Comic-Con version of the Four Brothers, because it comes in a box that looks like the VHS of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one's cool.
But
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 I have the 2 packs from Walmart.
but you can only get that from Comic-Con?
Yeah, I mean everyone's reselling them online now, but it's super expensive to get one. So
Yeah.
maybe one day if I'm rich, I'll buy one. But for now, it's just I got the 2 packs that they sell at Walmart. So
Is it within $100?
no, it's
Oh,
more $500-$600.
dang, for 4 of the turtles.
Yes,
Wow. Dude,
I've
that's like
seen
a
it go for 1,000 on eBay. So
really.
yeah, and then it's really rare because there's a bunch of knockoffs. So
Oh.
China mass produced a bunch of knockoffs, and so it's hard to distinguish unless you look at it in person if
Mhm.
it's a real or a fake. So buying it
I
online,
see.
buyer beware. So it's really rare to get that assurance that hey, this is legit from Comic Con.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And we're going to get into this comic, but before we do that, I kind of want to ask you, like, do you think it's possible that they could do this as a movie?
This, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. This would make
Like,
an awesome movie.
would it be a one-parter or you know,
This could just be one movie.
one movie?
One movie.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, you know what? I really don't want to wait, so why don't we get into it?
All right.
And before we do this, I have to ask the obligatory question. After I ask this, I will no longer ask it ever again. But
Okay.
did your mom have anything to do with you and this comic book?
Absolutely nothing.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Andrew,
Yes.
can you give us a quick plot detail or description?
Description. So we start off with Michelangelo just sitting there, and his brothers are kind of haunting him about him sitting there not doing anything after they
Right,
struck this amazing blow to um,
Stockman.
Hiroto by taking out Stockman, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm on my way." And then we see the aftermath of what happened. All the machines are down. Hiroto is pissed off, beating up his own guys, and you see Casey finally coming to the realization that she's a mutant and just kind of freaking out about it, and she wants to help
Mm-hmm.
Michelangelo out. And
Right.
then you have Mikey running through all these really wimpy sort of foot soldiers, and then he's running up against kind of bigger, more beefy dudes. It's kind of like the raid where you're just
It's like
going
the
up the
video game.
levels. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then it has like this Cthulhu like robot that he's facing, which is kind of cool. And then he finally gets to the big boss. I would call him like T1000 Shredder
Yeah.
because he has like
Yeah.
the liquid metal suit. So he's like
Yeah.
T1000 Shredder. He looks pretty cool though.
I think this is a really great design. But yeah, just to remind everyone, there are spoilers. Andrew's going to get into them. Keep going. Keep
Yeah.
going.
And then he like kills his mom. Like, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, Hirochi's
Yeah.
like, I never liked her to begin with. And he just like kills her.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, what a jerk. And then it comes to like, I think my favorite panel is like Hiroto and Liquid Metal Shredder coming down on the last Ronin. He's going, ha! Um, so it's a cool shot. Like, I think
What
it's shot
page?
very
What
well.
page?
I don't know. Doesn't say it in my thing.
Is it
Page
a
19?
splash page?
Page 19, yeah. It's page 19.
Oh, yeah. I love that page.
Yeah. So they're fighting, and then Casey's trying to help, but Casey gets pulled off that to go find and help her mother. And they keep fighting, and they're fighting. It's a lot of fighting, and it's like great action scenes. And like
Yes.
you can see Mikey just trying to figure out a way to defeat this T1000 Shredder.
Yeah, because technically it's impenetrable unless you unless you put a lot of pressure on it or
Yeah,
something
a
at
lot of
one
like
point.
blunt force trauma in a single spot.
Exactly.
Then Casey goes swimming in the sewers, which I don't recommend. Thankfully, she's a mutant, and they're
Yeah.
still fighting. And then Mikey blows up his tower or whatever, and they keep
Yeah.
fighting. So Casey finds April. April's doing her thing, trying to get the pumps working so that it doesn't flood the sewer. And
Yes.
then more fighting. And then Mikey ends up in the sewer because he gets injured
Yeah.
by Hiroto, and he like smacks him really good with that nunchuck, like really
Yeah.
good. Like he's like the master of the nunchucks, right? So,
And these
uh,
aren't normal nunchucks, man. These are huge. They
well, the
look
thing is, like he's
huge.
broken like all the other weapons, right? He broke the bow, he
Yeah.
broke the sword was already broken, but he broke it further, and then the sai got broken. So, he went through all his brother's weapons. Now he's on his weapon, right? This is now Mikey
Exactly.
getting his revenge on Hiroto.
Yeah.
Casey's helping April get the pumps working, and then it dumps Hiroto and Mikey out of the sewers into like this dump area where they
Yeah.
have their final just kind of battle, and Mikey takes him out. And unfortunately, Mikey dies in the process.
Hmm.
Very sad. Casey comes to see him. Mikey left her Splinter's notebook of like all the trainings and teachings, and he left one message for her, which is no peace. Very poetic. And
Well,
then
spell no, or people are gonna take that wrong.
ANOW, like no as in knowledge,
Yeah.
peace. And April drives up and she mourns Mikey. And it's really sad. And I like that it's like this heart monitor and it goes flat lines, right?
Yeah.
And then Mikey wakes up and he's young again. He's not this old beat up turtle. He's like a young teenager. So it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah.
So he's a teenager again. His brothers are giving him crap for being late. And you see like this really amazing image of them on the rooftop with Splinter, and Casey's behind them. And it's kind of weird that their heaven is still New York and that they still live in the sewers.
Yeah.
But that's their heaven, I guess. And then you get this cool epilogue where Casey has obviously continued to study Splinter's journal,
Hmm.
and April is working on creating 4 new turtle mutants.
Yeah.
And that's the end, or I guess
Okay.
the beginning of the next saga.
The next saga. Okay. Um. Why don't we get into some of your likes and some of your dislikes?
I liked this through line of like the mutagen, right? Because like the
Okay.
4 brothers never had kids of their own. And so this idea that Mikey talks about the mutagen that runs through his veins is his blood, right? And that mutagen is
Right.
now in Casey and it's in April, and they're using that to like create this new generation of turtles.
Yeah,
So
that
it's like these are their descendants through Casey and April that their legacy lives on or their family line lives on in these new turtles.
right.
So I kind of wonder, like, when they continue this story, are they going to name them after the four brothers, or are they going to get new names? Like, do we get new Renaissance names for these turtles?
Or is it gonna be musicians? Like there's gonna be like Mozart or Beethoven.
So
But
yeah,
yeah, that is a good point. I do like that. Yeah,
it's
but
very poetic.
yeah. But okay, real quick. Earlier when we were talking, you kind of mentioned that the ending was a little cheesy.
Yeah,
O- But what part? Were you talking about the epilogue or the Michelangelo waking up
I think the
or
epilogue was a little cheesy
oh,
of like the four new brothers.
yeah. But I mean, it would make you excited though, right?
Yeah, it makes me excited, and you know they've already said they wanted to continue this universe in some
Yeah.
capacity, and so this sets that up, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm wondering, like, does the Foot Clan continue still, right? Because Mikey's last words were no peace,
Hmm.
and if the Foot Clan still exists, then there isn't going to be peace for these new turtles.
Right. And and if the Foot Clan does not exist, well then why do they even need a part 2? Like why do they need a continuation?
Yeah, so I wonder, like, what's the new villain? Like, what? How are they going to structure this new story with like
Yeah.
Casey as the new Splinter? She even wears like a new outfit.
I don't know if I'm You know what? Like remember we were talking about what we think would have happened?
Yeah,
I kind of still like the idea that like Michelangelo would end up as the sensei, just crippled, you know?
yeah.
But at the end of the day, I like how do you feel about that? How do you feel about him dying?
I figured that was the most logical conclusion, right? That he would die and join his brothers in whatever the afterlife was for them. And that's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the most logical conclusion. You want them to like finally be able to rest. Because if
Hmm.
Mikey was still alive, he'd still, knowing him, be feeling guilty about being the last Ronin, all these sorts of things. Even at the beginning of this book, like he's still having this argument with his brothers in his head,
Yeah.
and they're all telling him, you know, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? But you know that for Mikey, he knows all these things. He knows exactly what he should be doing, all that stuff, and all the voices in his head. They aren't real. The ghosts aren't really there. It's
Yeah.
Mikey just having a conversation with himself, and him still wanting to be that younger brother who's irresponsible and doesn't have to take on this burden. Like
Right.
those frames there are just him trying to reconcile the fact that he still is the last Ronin, that this heavy mission is still on him to complete.
Right. And the way you just said it is super poetic because at the end of the day, when the voices are silenced, that's actually him just accepting, right?
Yeah,
And just saying to himself, I got to do this. Like it's not on anyone else but me, right? But
definitely.
but near the end of the fight, he starts using his brother's weapons. Like the first one is the sai, and I think it goes in the order of their deaths. Actually, I think the sai is first, the katana is second, and then he smacks the guy with the bow, and then he's got his nunchucks.
Yeah.
So I think there's a poeticism to that as well. Was there anything else that you really enjoyed or took away from this particular story?
I mean, the whole fight, I mean, and they took a long time with this fight, right? It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to fight you for like a few panels. And it was a
Yeah.
long fight. And it was like a
Yes.
war between the two of them.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that they took their time with it and they made this fight meaningful, and that it really it really did do justice to the story that they were trying to tell.
I agree. I agree. The fight is amazing. Okay. So I always mention this, but so there's four quote unquote artists, right? There's two Escorza brothers, there's Ben Bishop, and normally there's Kevin Eastman. But on this particular issue, there is no Kevin Eastman, but he did the layouts, which is kind of pretty much like he storyboarded ideas and then the artist took that and ran with it. So what I really loved about this issue is I think the Escorza brothers real are just excellent at action. You know what I mean? They're they're just so good at the kinetic energy of a fight and expressions. And one of my main things on the earlier issues when it came to the Scorza brothers is I really don't like to see Mike completely naked. So so this issue was really cool. Like in the first couple of
Because he had pants
images,
on.
yeah, he had his pants on, but like you see him start to put on his armor, right?
Right.
And and these are like really thick pieces of armor that just add on to the heft of him. And on top of that, okay, Andrew, when you first saw those two like robots, what were you thinking?
Which two robots?
The ones he fights before he gets to Hiroto.
You mean Cthulhu?
Yeah. Yes. Well, there's a guy with a sword, and then there's the flying guy. Which one's
Well, the
Cthulhu?
sword is like the sword guy. I think he's a person.
He's a
Yeah,
what?
because there's blood there when he
There's
hits him.
blood. Yeah.
That's a person. But Cthulhu is a bot
Yeah. But
because he uses that giant sword on him, and then you see like parts fly.
yeah. But okay, for the person one, what did you think at first?
What did I think?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of like video games. This giant kind of
Yeah.
imposing Hulk like figure. But you knew he was
Cuz
going to take him out pretty easily.
cuz my thing is when I first saw that, it made me think about a lot of the things that you were saying about your thoughts of how it was going to end.
Hmm.
So I was actually thinking, "Oh my god, what if they put Leonardo in that thing and he was fighting his brother?" And then it turned out to not be Leonardo, so I was kind of like, "Oh, I guess we were wrong."
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that was I thought that was really cool because based on what we discussed versus what actually happened, I was like, "Whoa, what would I have rather have seen?" Because if it was Leonardo and he was fighting him, this would not have been the last issue. There's no
Yeah.
way they could have like finished it.
That would have been a lot bigger of a call.
Yeah. And it would have made him much angrier too, right? Because he
Yeah.
was like facing his own brother. But yeah, I I think leading up to the actual final fight is kind of it, that's kind of anticlimactic. I feel like those two bots, they're just there to like tire him out, right? So that Hiroto can take him out completely.
Yeah, because Hirotu's a coward.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, did anything bother you?
Anything bother me? It did kind of bother me that Mikey died
Okay,
because
why?
you're thinking about like this feud, this lifelong feud, right?
Yeah,
Like Shredder's clan and Splinter's clan, they've been feuding for generations, right?
yeah.
And yeah, I get that like the mutagen lives on and that is kind of their legacy that continues on,
Hmm.
but it's still like Splinter's line is now kind of technically gone, right? Because his last real son, Mikey, is now dead, and then Shredder's line is also ended that we know of. Like I'm pretty sure Hiroto is gonna have like a son or a daughter, and like that's who the new turtles are gonna fight, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But it doesn't like give that satisfaction that they won because they didn't really win because Mikey still died in the end.
I see what you mean. But hold on.
Because
Do
like the
you
whole
think
thing's like,
Hiroto,
huh?
huh?
Well, the whole thing throughout this book is like it's because of this feud that they're in this situation,
Right,
right?
right.
And they've tried to like be peaceful about it and everything else, and they finally just end everything, but then it comes at the price of the end of their line too.
Right.
So
But my thing is like How did Hiroto die? Was he just electrocuted?
I mean, Mikey beat the crap out of him. He had some concussion, brain damage, from that nunchuck to the head.
Yeah, but
Trying to
but
get to that panel.
was Hiroto like? Did he create some kind of like electric pulse and it backfired and he fried himself as well?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, like it looks like he's grabbing his chest on page. Hold on, page 33, and he calls himself an immortal. Like right after he calls himself God, and then he sets like this electrical thing, and I guess he commits suicide. Right.
Let's see here. I guess so, right?
Yeah, but then if you look at the image, so he falls with his back into the water, but the next image is his back is up. So his butt, it like you see his butt cheeks.
How did I know you were gonna call that out? I think he's just falling in, and he's like face up because he's dead. Like his body like turned over, and he's dead.
Oh, yeah. But
Is he
I
just kind of
do.
falling into the muddy water?
Okay, you know what I'm gonna bring up, don't you?
What?
The mud and a final fight.
Yeah.
Do you know what that reminds me of?
What?
The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So Batman fights the last leader of the mutant clan. But in this case, Batman beats the crap out of him and says, "You're on an operating table and I'm the surgeon." Something like that. Some epic line. And then I was kind of like, "Oh no," cuz Mikey actually dies in this one, which is, and then so that was another thing, because in the Dark Knight Returns, sorry if I said Rises, I meant Dark Knight Returns. That's also how it ends. Batman eats a pill that kind of stops his heart, and then later on he reawakens. So in my mind, I'm kind of like, oh, is he gonna reawaken? But what I do enjoy is that it's that bittersweet brothers with each other, and it's Ben Bishop's beautiful art,
Yeah.
and it just ends on a peaceful note with all the brothers, with Splinter and even Casey Jones where they belong on the rooftop, ready to kick demons' asses.
Yeah.
Is what I'm expecting, I guess. Um, but yeah, anything else that like kind of took you out of the story, maybe, or
Uh, I. It's kind of useless for Casey to go help her mom because she had it handled. Like,
you
really.
know, dude, that was my main complaint about this entire issue. Just like the whole Casey April subplot,
Yeah.
because
It made no sense. I mean, the April part makes sense, right? Because this is
yeah,
how they get flushed out into the mud,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah.
But like
But
Casey gets sidelined. Like she doesn't help with quelling the riots. She doesn't do anything. She just goes to help her mom, but her mom already had it handled, so she really did nothing.
yeah, because remember, like the first thing she does is confront her mother about like, I'm a mutant. You know, she's being like the angsty, bratty teenager, right?
Yeah.
So she runs off because she's like, I'm gonna find Sensei. But like before she even gets near him, she runs into one of her people or the rebel leaders,
Yeah.
and then she's pretty much delegating, like a politician, and then she realizes, oh, I shouldn't have run away from my mom, so I'm gonna go find her. But then it's like, so it's her character is still. I feel like they didn't know it how to write her in this issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like they really didn't know what to do with her.
Yeah,
'Cause they needed to find a way for her to get to Mikey at the end.
yeah,
But other than that, they really didn't know what else needed to happen. So they just kind of sidelined her with April.
yeah. And then, okay, I've got a couple of images that I really, really enjoyed in this book, though. So I wrote a couple of them down on page 15. He's about to fight. This is right before he fights the Cthulhu,
Yeah,
but he's got like those tonfas.
the EMP
Those
Tonkas.
yeah, those are so cool. And then yeah, there's just I gotta tell you, man, the Escorza brothers were hitting on all 8 cylinders, whatever you say.
10.
But 10?
Yeah,
Okay, 10 cylinders. And this book is the major plus is it's one of the most beautiful books out of all 5, actually.
yeah. The art in this is amazing.
Yeah, the fight scenes are amazing. And I want to piggyback off of something that you mentioned. It's just Hiroto sucks.
Yeah, he's a
Like,
really horrible.
there's no nuance to his character. Although, Splinter was never a 3-dimensional kind of character, but you kind of knew where he was coming from.
Yeah,
In terms of Hiroto, you just know that, he didn't like his mommy. And you know what I mean?
pretty much.
And I don't really think of him as that great of a leader throughout all 5 of the issues. And Mikey even mentions it when he's going through the gauntlet of all these foot soldiers. He's kind of saying that these people are not really giving him a fight. You
Yeah,
know, they don't respect Hiroto, and so at the end of the day, they're just willing to like go down and okay, I surrender. So there's a bunch of images right before he gets to Hiroto and before he gets to Cthulhu and all those people of like the Foot Clan just lying on the ground, all bloodied and everything.
yeah. The Foot Clan is useless now.
Yeah, exactly. And then they bring something up about mob mentality, but they don't do anything with it. You remember that,
Yeah,
like at the beginning?
it's kind of like this setup that doesn't pay off.
Yeah. You know what would have been really good is if Casey was helping with the mob mentality, like stopping the mob, right? And and bringing people together.
Yeah, that would have been good. And then like as she's like quelling down the riot, she sees like Mikey and Hiroto like fall from the tower, and she like
Yeah.
runs, and then that's how she sees them because she goes down in the sewer with them, and then it flushes them out, and then
Yeah.
she's there like witnessing what happens.
Dude, that is so much better. Yeah, I completely agree. Although let's be honest, this issue is very good, but everyone has their ideas, and there are some flaws to the story, as we kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
Bad. Yeah,
So
like
my
Casey
question
is
to you
kind of
though,
useless.
was
Yo,
it worth the wait? Because we, delay after delay, was it worth that several month wait to get this issue?
I think the problem with the wait is basically what we did. Because what me and you did, or what I think a lot of fans will do, is they're going to make conjectures or they're going to make plot details in their mind of how we want it to end or how they expected it to end, right?
Yeah,
And to be honest, some of your ideas were really good, and I like some of my ideas, right? So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, man, I wish they did something different with Casey, like we kind of mentioned just now.
yeah. She doesn't
And
really have a complete arc.
yeah, exactly. She really is a sidekick before people knew what to do with sidekicks. You know what I mean?
Because it
Like
made no sense that up until this, like for the epilogue, that she's now a master. Like there wasn't enough in there to like warrant that jump in the epilogue. Like because just having Splinter's book is not going to make you a master.
exactly. And so I feel like her character is the least developed, even more so than Carrie Kelly in The Dark Knight Returns. But I feel like if they had a couple more issues, they could have definitely fleshed her out. They could have even had one chapter just for Hiroto and had like an 8-issue arc, which would have worked perfectly fine as well. But
Yeah, but who knows when that would have ended?
and and I think that's the problem because dude, the wait was an additional, I don't know, like 4 months maybe?
Yeah, it was
It
long.
it was crazy. And to end it sort of the way they do, it's kind of like a soft ending, you know?
Yeah, but that's only because they wanted to continue this universe.
Right. So
If they
I'll be
hadn't done that, I think they would have probably done something different.
okay. Okay. So what you're saying is if they didn't have that epilogue and they didn't, well, they would have Mikey and the brothers and stuff, but they wouldn't have that epilogue. So you think it would just end completely differently, right?
Yeah, I think it really would have ended differently if they weren't planning to continue on this universe.
Because I agree with you. And another thing is how he wrote no peace, KNOW. I th- that's also why I think your idea of Michelangelo winning in the end and living would have made more sense.
Yeah,
Because for him to know peace would be for him to survive and to actually, forgive himself for not being there and then to become a true sensei is what I think no peace would actually be, you know?
yeah, because he doesn't really get there because he just
Yeah.
dies and he gets what he wanted, which is even at the very first issue, he just wanted to die,
Yeah. But
and he didn't really kind of come to peace with anything.
I guess he came to peace with the fact that, oh, I'm giving you my legacy, but at the end of the day, it's kind of pointless too. Cause you're giving a legacy that I don't really know how to explain it, but it's kind of like you're giving them a legacy that just ended.
All right, so I'm gonna say something kind of controversial.
Okay.
This book kind of gave me Jesus vibes.
Okay, how?
So like Michelangelo is like Jesus in this case, right? He's like, I don't want this burden. I don't want to like give up my life for this, but I
Okay.
will if I have to, kind of thing. That's like him getting ready at the beginning and all this other stuff, right?
Right.
And then like he goes through all the struggle of like, trying to conquer the greatest evil,
Yeah.
and like then he dies, right?
Oh, he takes on all the sin and the burden
Of like
of
of this family feud that has like destroyed the world,
the
and then he dies. But then he's
Yeah.
not really dead because like his blood is still living through Casey, and then they're creating new life.
Well, that's more of a Da Vinci Code kind of thing right
I'm just
there.
saying.
No, I see where you're coming from. Who knows, man? Maybe Tom Waltz or Kevin Eastman are Christians, but yeah, I could totally see that. Like, let's just go into everyday comic book lore in general, right? Even Superman has Christ parallels as well, right?
Yeah,
So I do think a lot of writers take their beliefs and they put it into the story. I'm not saying Tom Waltz or Kevin Eastman are Christian because I don't know, but I mean you and I are Christians, so sometimes we see things that maybe maybe the writer did not expect for other people to see, you know?
yeah.
So no, I think that's a really cool extrapolation. I personally didn't even think of that because I'm going back and thinking, oh, this is ripping off Dark Knight right Returns.
Well, I mean, I guess just because Easter wasn't that long ago, so
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But other than that, all right, let's get into our normal ranking procedures. Andrew, out of 5 slices of pizza, what would you give this issue?
I give it a 4.
You give it a 4?
Yeah, the action was great. It was a satisfying ending, but just that whole arc with Casey just didn't pay off.
I completely agree. I also give it a 4. The main thing is, like you mentioned, it's Casey, it's Hiroto, because honestly, I feel like they could have done just a little more for his characterization other than him being just like a stuck up little brat. You know.
It kind of reminded me of Kylo Ren.
I actually haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, so I don't really know what happens to him at the end.
Oh, don't worry
But
about that. Just worry about like Kylo Ren from The Force
the
Awakens.
first two.
That's what he acts like, basically.
Yeah, like the pouty boy with the long
Yeah,
hair.
he's got the legacy of like Darth Vader behind him, but he's really powerful and talented, but he's
Yeah.
just a brat, and he like takes it out on people. He's got rage issues. He's basically
Yeah.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, 100%. But I will agree. I will agree. His armor is freaking
Yeah,
cool. Like,
T1000 Shredder is amazing.
yeah. Yeah, so I think 4 out of 5 slices, that's a very good grading. And then out of the entire series, you know, what would you give the entire series like altogether?
Entire series gets a 5, man.
Gives it really?
Yeah, it was a great way to kind of end the Turtles. It was a lot of nostalgia, and it was a great ride. And I just
I
realized I
will
had another favorite panel, which is when Mikey like smacks him in the head with that nunchuck, and you see like that piece of his helmet just go flying off, the little
Yeah.
headpiece, and I'm just like That's an amazing panel right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna, guys. If nothing else, buy this, buy this final issue just for the art. The art in itself is 5 out of 5. I mean, there are flaws in any story, but like the Escorza brothers, Ben Bishop, Kevin Eastman, they are a very, very great creative team. And Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman, they wrote the story. It's a very good story as well. I would not give it a 5. I would still give it about a 4. But altogether, I agree with you. You know, it brought me into the story, and I stayed along for the ride. And I'm glad I was able to do it with you, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride.
So we're not done yet.
Oh, I thought I could just not talk to you forever now.
We got one final issue to cap off this entire first season, and then we will be announcing our second season on the final episode, and we'll kind of explain what's going to go on the next episode. But
Yeah,
Andrew, what are we reading again next episode?
the the 2022 annual.
By Junie Boss. So if you guys haven't read that or gotten it, go grab it, because
If you
actually,
can.
yeah. Why is this sold out?
Yeah, at least in my comic
Oh,
shop it was.
okay.
Like the purveyor of my comic shop was like, "You're lucky you actually got this." I was like, "Yeah, that's right."
Wow. Because honestly, I think that's a perfect cap on even this run. Like, have you read it yet?
No, I haven't read it yet. I kind of
Oh
thumbed
my
through
god.
it.
Okay. Okay. Well, when after you read it, we're gonna have the discussion, and then season 1 will be over. But Andrew, thank you again for joining me on this ride.
Yep,
And then we will be talking soon and recording our final episode of season 1.
sounds good to me.
All right, man. Thank you again, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, see you on the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Cowabunga!